What's up, everybody? Noah Kisser back here for another review. This is my 300th review. As you have seen in my past videos, my past like 6 or 7 videos, I said that I wanted my 300th review of the year to be very, very special. A big, huge movie that I've been looking forward to. And this is It Chapter 2 review. It Chapter 2 is all about 27 years later, the adults of the Losers Club, well, except for one of them, come back, and they have to defeat Pennywise, but they first got to get these special tokens from childhood. And they know what these are. They got to get one of them for Stanley as well, because, little spoiler here, if you haven't seen the 90s miniseries, then watch the 90s miniseries first, before going and seeing this one, and especially see It Chapter 1 if you haven't yet. And if you haven't read the book, a little spoiler here, Stanley kills himself. And he gives a reason for it at the very end of the movie. He sends a letter to all the members of the Losers Club at the very tail end of the movie. So, it's pretty much them being scared by Pennywise, and that's it. This really isn't a scary movie. This isn't a horror movie. This felt more like a thriller comedy, with a lot of comedy. Might as well call this a comedy thriller. There was some creepy aspects to it, yes. But the horror aspects, I felt like Warner Bros. Blew their load too early. The main scares came within the first half of the film. And you could definitely tell. Just a little warning, this review is going to be all over the place because I didn't script this one. I didn't write anything down. This is just off the cuff, me spurting out some words. You can definitely tell that the kids' faces were CGI'd at some points, especially Finn Wolfhard. We just saw him in Stranger Things. And we just saw Jack Dylan Grazer in Shazam. And Sophia, we saw her, or Sophie or Sophia, in Nancy Drew, which she did right after it. She hasn't changed too much. But you can definitely tell, especially on Finn Wolfhard and Jack Dylan Grazer, that there was something little off with their face. They de-aged them. Every other kid was fine with the CGI'd de-aging of the faces. That was fine. But it was just Finn and Jack. Now, this adult cast is phenomenal. James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain were great. But the main standout you've all heard, if you are a reader or viewer of film reviewers or film critics on YouTube, you've all heard this or seen this, that Bill Hader steals the frickin' show. He's amazing in this film. I'm gonna say that he at least should get a Oscar campaign for Best Actor or Best Supporting. I'm gonna say Best Supporting because he's not in it as much as everybody, but each character gets their own little scare. The main scare that made everybody scream, well, there were about 3. One was involving Henry Bowers, which I'm not going to spoil that one. And the other one that really scared everybody was with Pennywise, the kid, and James McAvoy in that glass mirror house thing. That scared everybody, and everybody was also scared by, well, except for me because I knew it was coming, was the old lady scene. Everybody in my theater was being a little inappropriate and immature about it, which I'll get into that in a separate video. But this one was funny. It was creepy at times. It felt way too long. It was 2 hours and 49 minutes. It didn't help that my theater did about 10 to 15 minutes of extra giveaways, which, fine, giveaways are fine. Just do them at 6:45 so I can get to the movie about 7. We had about 10 minutes of previews, which is how much we should get. We had one great preview with Birds of Prey, The Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Everybody thought the movie was starting, but I knew that this was going to happen because I've heard about this. And you get the It music starting, you get the It Warner Brothers logo with balloons, and then you see the DC logo. Everybody was confused, thinking that It was a comic book movie that this time, and I knew that it was going to be Harley Quinn. You see her walking up, and she says one line, and it was pure gold. I'm looking forward to that film. One of my top films that I'm most anticipating for 2020 as of right now. This film is a tough one to really review. If you got scared in It Chapter 1, you'll get scared in this one. But if you're expecting an all-out horror fest, scare fest, you're not going to get that here. You don't get constant scare, 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 jump scare, jump scare, jump scare. No, you get a little scare here leading up to a scare. The scariest scene to me was this scene with a little girl going down under the bleachers at a baseball game and seeing Pennywise. That was the scariest, because it felt like you were watching Georgie and Pennywise all over again, except not as creepy, because you got to know Georgie a little bit. You got to feel for the character. This girl, you felt for her because her mom was just being a complete B-word to her, and she just wanted to go home and play. She has this birthmark on her face, and Pennywise says, people make fun of me too. So he's trying to butter her up a little bit, get her to come close so he can eat her. Oh, that was scary. That was creepy as heck. Another portion of this film that another thing about this film that I think could be, I don't want to say this, that can make the film better, is you can cut out 20 to 30 minutes of the film. This did not need to be that long. You could have cut out some of the unneeded scenes with this kid, and some of the unneeded, especially the beginning, the first like 5 minutes, you didn't need it. You didn't need this with seeing what the kids did at the end of the movie. You didn't need to see Bill and Beverly kiss again. You didn't need to see that except from a different angle this time. The thing that's really going to drag this movie down for me is the ending. I thought the ending was pretty damn good. Sorry for the swear, but I thought this ending was pretty damn good. Except for some of the CGI looked a little bit piss poor. Just a little bit piss poor. And we all know the ending. If we've seen the miniseries, he turns into this like alien spider thing. And you get a little bit of that at the beginning of the movie, especially with that dinner scene. You see it a little bit. What he's going to start becoming. The ending of this film is very emotional. They gave Richie a little bit of a little bit more emotion and gave him a different direction than the original was. They had hints of it in the original 90s miniseries, but when something happens, we find out that he may not be 100% straight. Which, that's his choice. Keep my mouth shut on there, because either way, I'm going to offend somebody. But this film was a lot of fun for what it was. Way too long. Bill Hader deserves at least an Oscar campaign. And some of the CGI was bad. It cut about 20 to 30 minutes out of here. It wasn't really scary, but everybody in my theater was laughing it off, being very inappropriate and disrespectful, playing on their phones, which I'll get into that in a little bit in another video. But this film was not a letdown to me. Everybody was let down by this. I knew what I was going to get. I knew I was not going to get a very scary film, because we all know that the second part is the lesser liked part. The part 2 of the book and of the miniseries have always been disliked by a lot of people. Because you've grown so attached to these kids, and you bring these adult actors in here, which I gotta say, the adult actors do a lot better than Richard Thomas, John Ritter, and everybody else. I'm just saying that now. This one isn't cheesy or anything like that. It gets cheesy, and they did change a lot of the ending. You get a key character death, and let's just say that who Beverly ends up with in the original miniseries she doesn't end up with in this one, which I really liked. She got to find out what was really going on, blah, 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 and really good film. One I'm definitely going to recommend. Not as good as the first one, but let's not make that comparison. This isn't as good as the first one. I wasn't expecting it to be. I was expecting this to be a very solid sequel that I wanted good performances, a nice tight story, and some of the editing in the film was a little bit choppy and just too light and not tight enough, if you know what I mean. I loved this film for what it was. I am going to give It Chapter 2 a B+. One I'm definitely going to buy on DVD or Blu-ray, and I cannot wait to see if we get a It the Beginning, because or It Origins. I've heard that Andy Muschietti said that if this film does as good as Chapter 1, we could see a Chapter 3, or we could see a origin of Pennywise, because there's plenty that you could do with him. You could show how he became this deranged evil clown, this deranged evil being. You could show that. You could show different stories, not with the kids we know and love. You could show us what happened before the kids of Derry, or the key characters of Derry, Maine. You could show that, but otherwise than that, there's my review of It Chapter 2. Stay tuned for my reviews of Johnson Family Vacation, which I'm watching as we speak. Yeah. I will also have reviews up for The Transporter 2. I got sent a screener for Killer Sofa, Candy Corn, Hoax, a bunch of other stuff. Yes, Killer Sofa is coming up very, very soon. You guys know how much I've been looking forward to this film since I've heard about it from High Octane Pictures. Thank you to High Octane Pictures for sending me that, by the way. But It Chapter 2, there's my thoughts on it. I'm going to recommend it to you if you've been looking forward to it. If you're not a fan of horror films, still go and see it, because this one isn't really a horror film. It's more of a thriller comedy with horror elements, like 4 or 5 really good jump scares that create that horror element to it. Horror is at the bottom tier of the genres for this film. Stay tuned for the next review for Killer Sofa and Johnson Family Vacation.